So that was really setting up our conversation around target. And if you remember from our 5 T's, we gave a question to help define what each of the T was. What was the question for target?
What is success?
What
Jinx.
what is success? What is a win? When do we know the task is finished? So you saw clearly that Nehemiah had a target, and it wasn't just the wall, it was the right worship of God. So it's imperative for us to think about defining our own target that we're after. So the question becomes, how do we begin to define our target? Let's just ride Nehemiah the rest of the evening. What did Nehemiah do to define his target?
So like he had the place Jerusalem and the people, the Jews, and to what extent, like you said, like the right worship, covenant faithfulness.
Yeah. So how does the book of Nehemiah start? So let's just think of it this way. Nehemiah gets a report, and let's make the application maybe to Afghans. Alex and Natalie, you hear the report from someone that 99.9% of all Afghans are Muslim and they don't worship God rightly. They're not giving him the praise that he deserves. We would call that's the brutal facts. We're being informed. Nehemiah hears something, and what does he immediately do? He prays and fasts to get what is his responsibility? What is his task? For Nehemiah, yeah, exactly what Josiah said. He had the people, the place, and to what extent. For us, we cast vision. We hear people talking at missions conferences about the unreached. We go to Joshua Project. We do all of these things. We see the brutal facts, and God turns our heart toward that. Our next response should be to pray and fast and to get clarity and hear from the Lord. What is my contribution? And this is really imperative because what if Nehemiah went back to Jerusalem and he didn't have a conviction of what was success? Obviously, we don't know, but what are some things that come to mind if Nehemiah didn't clearly hear from the Lord and discern what success was?
He would have just mucked around and not really did anything. And he probably wouldn't have a book named after him.
That's right. He probably wouldn't have a book named after him, and he would have just done good things, right? Because he has a heart for the Lord. He would have went and done good things rather than reforming all of the abuse to the underserved. He probably would have tried to help them individually, which is a great thing. We see people doing that all the time. But he saw that there was a foundational problem and he addressed the foundational thing. Why? Because he knew where it was going. So defining your target is important. And you see the 3 categories that I want you to think about defining your target is a people, and I'm not even going to say people group. I'm just going to say segment, and we'll talk more about that. A place, we have to put some geographic boundaries on it, and then to what extent. So why is it important to define your target? So dialogue about this, someone unmute. Why is it important to define your target?
I can say about place, it's interesting that as they were building the wall, every family or every man seemed to have a segment of the wall that was specifically theirs. They didn't wander off into somebody else's place. They kept in their own place. And so Nehemiah had a place, which was the city of Jerusalem. But each of the assignments that he gave out, they had their own place. And because they were faithful to work in their place, the wall was constructed.
Yeah, great observation. Nehemiah was stewarding this big strategy, but how did he implement it? It was local geographic ownership. Alex or Natalie?
So I was just gonna say, like, the reason why it's important to define your target is so you know how to prepare for it. So for example, like your people group, like let's say you wanna reach Afghans. All right, cool. If my focus is Afghans, I need to learn as much as I can about their culture, their beliefs, their language, like the system of a household, so that I can be as effective as possible. So I think like that's why it's important to define your target, is because then you know how to prepare for it.
Yeah, if you think of what Nehemiah did when he met with King Artaxerxes, is he knew what he needed to get the job accomplished, right? He asked for everything and he got it. So practically, if we think about like our context, I kind of have this like concentric circle here. The more focused we are, the better we're going to be at defining and identifying what are our best high value activities. The broader our focus, the less impactful it is. So if you just have a people group focus, you may be doing good and better activities. If you have just a geographic focus with no end vision, you'll probably be just low impact. And so that's why bringing these together, people, place, to what extent, helps us just best identify what are our best high value activities, which means it helps us discern what to say yes to, and it helps us discern, probably even more importantly, what to say no to. So if we use the Afghan example again, if you have a commitment and focus to work with Afghans, and I call you, Alex, and say, hey, could you come up to Dallas and help me do some evangelism with Kurds? What should be your proper answer?
I don't feel like I'm well prepared to work with the Kurds.
You could take Nehemiah chapter 6, verse 3 or 4. Oh, hey, bud, I'm doing a good work. Why should I come up to Dallas and the work here stop? Do you hear how that is a commitment to a people and a place, and to what extent? You're not going to see momentum if every week you have a task that's pulling you away from your focus. So it is imperative to get this right. Because if you think of the rest of the T's, teaming, defining your target is going to change who you can team with. Defining your target is going to affect the tools that you use. Like you said, Alex, like being prepared, knowing the people so you know what tools apply. I don't want to beat the dead horse, making a reference from last week, but I hope you begin to see that defining this has very, very important implications.